I always tell people that the emergency room has a personality of its own, like a creature that never sleeps, never apologizes, and never stops testing the limits of everyone inside it. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for the shift I'm about to tell you about. If someone had warned me that one single night could push me so close to the edge that I'd question everything I thought I knew about my job, I would have laughed and brushed it off. But the truth is, if you had walked into the ER with me that day, you would have felt it too. The air was different. Heavy. Charged. Like something was lurking around the corner waiting to show its teeth. And little did I know, it wasn't going to wait long. The shift started like any other, which is exactly how the worst ones usually begin. I clocked in at 6:56 p.m., 4 minutes early, because nothing good ever happens when you're late in the ER. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead with that annoying, constant buzz that you eventually get used to, but never fully stop noticing. The smell was the usual blend of disinfectant, adrenaline, stress, and whatever questionable leftovers someone microwaved in the break room. I tied my hair up, slipped my pen into my scrub pocket, and told myself, "You've done this 1,000 times. You can handle tonight." I had no idea how wrong I was. Before I even reached the nurse's station, the charge nurse, Carla, gave me a look that immediately made my stomach tighten. You learn very quickly in this job that there are looks, and then there are looks. This one was the second type. Before she even said anything, I already felt myself tense. "You ready for this?" she asked, not smiling, not joking. "That depends," I said. "What hit us already?" She pointed toward the double doors without saying a word, and that's when I saw them. 3 paramedic units lined up almost bumper to bumper, lights still flashing even though the engines were turned off. Paramedics stood outside the doors like they didn't know whether to come in or run back to their rigs. That's never a good sign. When paramedics look nervous, everyone else should start praying. I didn't even get the luxury of taking a deep breath because the ER doors slid open and the first stretcher came in fast. The paramedic pushing it looked like he'd sprinted the entire way from the ambulance bay to the trauma room. "We need a room now," he shouted. "She's going out again." That sentence shot through my brain like a jolt. Going out again means one thing in our world. She was losing consciousness repeatedly and unpredictably. I jumped into motion instantly. All the exhaustion from the previous week, all the stress from my personal life, all the frustration I'd been holding on to. None of it mattered anymore. When a patient rolls through those doors, especially one in that condition, the rest of the world fades into static. We pulled her stretcher into trauma 2, and the room transformed instantly. Machines powered on. Carts were thrown open. Gloves snapped into place. I stood by the paramedic as he gave report, my hands already preparing IV lines before he even finished speaking. "Female, mid-20s, sudden collapse at a grocery store," he said, his words sharp and fast. "Unresponsive twice on the way here. Regained consciousness but disoriented. No known medical history, no medications. Pulse irregular. Blood pressure unstable." The woman on the stretcher looked so small it hurt to see. Pale, sweaty, and barely awake. Her eyes tried to open but fluttered shut again like she was fighting a battle inside her own body. I leaned close to place the cardiac leads on her chest, speaking softly even though I wasn't sure she could hear me. "You're safe," I told her. "We've got you." Her body trembled, not from cold, but from whatever storm was tearing through her system. The monitor beeped as it picked up her heart rhythm, and I froze for a fraction of a second. Something was wrong. The pattern was unstable, wild, like an engine misfiring. The physician, Dr. Hayes, rushed in right as I called out the numbers. "Pressure's dropping," I said. He took one look at the monitor and his expression hardened. "Let's stabilize her. Prep medication." I was already grabbing what he needed before the sentence ended. That's the thing about ER nurses. You don't wait for instructions. You move with your team like you're all sharing the same brain. But before we could even begin to treat her, something unexpected happened. Her eyes snapped wide open, and she grabbed my wrist with surprising strength. "Don't let them in," she whispered. I froze. "Hey, you're okay." Who's trying to get in?" But her fingers loosened as fast as they had tightened, and she slipped back into confusion, barely aware of where she was. I exchanged glances with the doctor, who clearly had just heard the same thing I had. But he shook his head subtly as if to say, "Focus on the medical, not the mystery." Fair enough. But something about the way she said it, the fear, the urgency, lodged itself in the back of my mind. I didn't have time to think about it because less than 10 seconds later, an alarm sounded from the waiting room. And believe me, the ER waiting room alarm only goes off for one reason. Something bad is happening out there. The paramedic by the door yelled, "We've got another incoming!" I swear, there are moments when the ER feels like a battlefield, and this was starting to become one. Carla shouted for 2 nurses to break off and assist. I wasn't one of them. I had to stay with our unstable patient, but the sounds from the waiting room told me things were escalating fast. Someone was shouting, not panicked, not desperate, furious. A man's voice boomed through the hallway. "She needs help now. Why isn't anyone helping her?" He wasn't even in the trauma area yet, and already the tension in the room doubled. Dr. Hayes muttered under his breath, "It's going to be one of those nights." He had no idea just how right he was. While stabilizing the young woman, I caught fragments of what was happening outside. Footsteps pounding, voices overlapping, a chair crashing to the floor. But my hands stayed steady, my attention locked on the woman in front of me. Her pressure was dropping lower and lower, like her body was slowly giving up. We started intervention after intervention. Fluids, medication, oxygen, monitoring. Nothing was simple. Everything fought back. At one point, I leaned close to check her airway, and she whispered again, barely audible, "They're coming." I pulled back just enough to look into her eyes. "Who's coming?" But she was already drifting out again, her face tightening in pain or fear. I couldn't tell which. Then the trauma room doors burst open, and 2 security guards came rushing in with a man who looked frantic. Sweat drenched his forehead even though it wasn't warm in the ER. His hands were shaking and he kept pointing behind him. "She collapsed outside. She needs help," he yelled, "and nobody out there is listening." Behind him, another paramedic unit was wheeling in a second patient, a woman around his age who looked dazed, barely conscious. 2 critical patients within minutes, and the rest of the night hadn't even started yet. Carla looked at me sharply. "Switch. Take the new one. Jenna will take over here." I hesitated. I didn't want to leave my first patient, not after what she'd whispered. But duty isn't optional in the ER. When you're told to move, you move. I stepped toward the second stretcher. The man who'd brought her in looked wild-eyed, like he'd seen something he couldn't explain. When I approached him, he seized my arm so tightly I felt the pressure through my sleeve. "You need to listen," he said, voice trembling. "Something is wrong with her. Not medically wrong. Something else. Something I can't describe." I pulled my arm free gently but firmly. "Sir, I need you to step back so we can help her." "No," he insisted, voice shaking. "You don't understand. You can't leave her alone, not even for a second." His eyes weren't angry now. They were afraid. Terrified, actually. And that fear hit me harder than any yelling could have. Security stepped in, guiding him back carefully, and I pushed the stretcher into Trauma 3, where the lights flickered slightly as we entered. That alone gave me a chill. I spoke to the patient softly as I checked her vitals. "Hey, can you hear me? You're safe. You're in the ER." Her eyelids fluttered. When she opened them, something about her expression struck me. It wasn't confusion. It was awareness. Too much awareness. Like she knew exactly where she was, and exactly what was happening. But before I could ask her anything, she exhaled sharply and said, He followed us here. And just like that, the temperature in the room felt like it dropped. I'm not someone who scares easily, especially after years of working in the ER. But something about the way she said it, calm, resigned, almost like she expected something terrible to happen at any minute, made every hair on my arm stand up. As I worked, her partner kept trying to push past security, shouting things I couldn't make out clearly, but one phrase cut through everything. "Don't leave her alone. Please." Patients collapse all the time. People panic all the time. But this was different. Both patients, the young woman from the grocery store and now this one, were saying unsettling things, fearful things, things that didn't fit their symptoms or their situations. And even stranger, neither of them had any clear medical reason for how quickly they declined. I tried to focus on the numbers in front of me, but the feeling in the room was creeping under my skin. It felt like we weren't treating two patients. They were warnings of something bigger, but I didn't know that yet. Not fully. The night was just getting started. And the craziest part? What happened next made those first 30 minutes look calm. I tightened the blood pressure cuff around the woman's arm and tried to steady my breathing. I didn't want her to see the tension on my face. Patients pick up on everything. Fear spreads like smoke in a closed room. And once it starts, you can't push it back in. Her vitals flashed unstable numbers before settling into a range that wasn't good, but wasn't immediately catastrophic either. Still, something was off. She looked like someone running from an invisible storm. Her pupils tracked corners of the room like she expected something to step out of the shadows. I leaned closer, keeping my voice soft. "What's your name?" She took a long time before answering. "Mara." "Okay, Mara. Do you know where you are?" She nodded slightly. "Hospital. What happened before you got here?" Her lips parted, but the answer didn't come immediately. She stared past me, toward the open doorway, and whispered, "He followed us." There it was again. That same sentence. That same haunting fear. I pressed gently. "Who followed you?" She shut her eyes tight and shook her head like she was trying to dislodge a thought she didn't want to remember. "Don't let him in." A chill ran down my spine. The other patient, the young woman who collapsed at the grocery store, had said almost the same thing, and both said it with the kind of seriousness people don't fake. Before I could ask another question, her partner's shouting grew louder in the hallway. "Why aren't you helping her faster? She needs constant help. Don't leave her alone." Security tried calming him, but he wasn't having it. He looked like someone who hadn't slept in days, and his voice cracked each time he yelled her name. I stepped out of the room for a moment, just long enough to talk to him before things escalated further. I walked toward the hallway. "Sir, let me talk to you." He froze mid-shout like someone had hit pause on him, turned to me, and grabbed my arm again. But this time gently, like he was pleading for me to understand something nobody else could. "I'm not trying to cause trouble," he said, voice trembling. "But she's been saying things all week, seeing things, hearing things. Not like illusions, not like confusion, more like warnings." I stayed calm. "Warnings about what?" He swallowed hard. "About someone who won't leave her alone. Someone she described in ways that don't make any sense." Security stepped closer, ready to intervene, but I raised a hand to keep them back. "What do you mean, don't make sense?" I asked. He ran both hands through his hair, shaking. "She says he shows up in reflections, in windows, glass. She says she sees him behind her even when nobody is there." I didn't react to that. I couldn't. But inside, I felt something coil tight in my stomach. "She kept saying he wanted to follow her wherever she went," he continued. "And today, she collapsed in the parking lot. She pointed behind me and just dropped." I nodded slowly and put a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "We're going to take care of her, I promise. But you need to stay calm so we can do that." He nodded, but the fear never left his eyes. I stepped back into Trauma 3, and the instant I crossed the doorway, Mara exhaled sharply like she had been holding her breath the entire time I was gone. Her eyes darted to the glass cabinet behind me, the one we kept stocked with sealed supplies. "He's here," she whispered. I turned around instinctively, even though I knew there wouldn't be anyone there. And there wasn't. Just reflections of the room, the monitor lights, the IV bag, my own outline, hers lying on the stretcher. But it still didn't feel empty. I've worked in this hospital for years. I've seen things that defy logic. I've heard things that don't add up. I've felt things that made my skin crawl even though nothing was physically there. But this was different. This wasn't just one patient hallucinating. It was two. Two who had never met, coming in minutes apart, saying eerily similar things. And both were deteriorating fast for no clear medical reason. Suddenly, across the hall, I heard the alarms from Trauma 2, the first patient, vitals crashing, voices shouting, equipment clattering. I rushed to the doorway to look, but Carla stepped out and held up her hand. "Stay with your patient," she barked. I hated it. I hated hearing something going wrong and not being able to run toward it. But she was right. Mara needed me. I turned back toward her, and that's when I noticed something that made my heartbeat thump hard in my ears. Her eyes weren't on me anymore. They were fixed on the reflective glass cabinet again. Her breathing quickened, and her fingers clawed at the blanket like she was trying to grab onto reality itself. "Mara," I said carefully, "what are you seeing?" She shook her head vigorously. No, don't turn around. Please don't turn around." That sentence hit me like a bucket of ice water. I froze. Not because I believed something was behind me, but because she believed it with every fiber of her being. Her voice cracked, her body tensed, and her eyes filled with terror so raw it sliced right through me. "I don't want you to see him," she whispered. I kept my voice steady. "There's no one behind me." "You don't understand," she whispered. "You won't see him the way I do. He doesn't look normal. He looks like someone wearing a face that doesn't fit." That phrase made my skin crawl. I stood completely still, forcing myself to keep it together. "Okay, don't look at the cabinet. Focus on me." But before I could redirect her, the lights flickered. Just a small stutter. Barely a second. But hospitals don't flicker. They're built to withstand almost anything. She whimpered. "He's getting closer." The monitor beeped rapidly as her heart rate spiked. I stepped right in front of her to block her view of the cabinet. "Mara, look at me. You're safe. Nothing can get to you here." She blinked rapidly, tears sliding down her temples. "You don't understand. He follows reflections. He needs them. He can only get close through them." I hesitated for the first time that night. "Reflections?" She nodded weakly. "Glass, mirrors, windows, anything that shines." My mouth felt dry. There were reflective surfaces everywhere in the ER. Monitors, cabinets, metal tables, IV poles. If she truly believed something could use reflections to get closer, this room was her worst nightmare. Across the hall, Trauma 2 alarms quieted. I could hear staff voices settling, but I didn't take my eyes off Mara. "What happened before you collapsed?" I asked. "What did you see?" She swallowed, struggling to get the words out. "I saw him behind me, in the freezer door at the grocery store. I thought I was imagining it. But then he leaned forward. Too far forward, like his body didn't care about normal movement. And then I woke up here." Her voice broke on the last word. I leaned in. "Mara, listen to me. You're not alone. I'm right here. Nothing is going to hurt you." She let out a shaky breath. "You're not listening. He doesn't want to hurt me. He wants someone else." That stopped me cold. "Someone else?" I asked. She nodded weakly. Someone in this building. Before I could ask who, the nearest monitor let out a sudden, sharp tone that made both of us jump. The oxygen saturation dropped, plunging from a stable level to a dangerously low one within seconds. Her breathing became erratic, shallow, panicked. I grabbed the oxygen mask, bringing it toward her, but she jerked away violently. "No, don't cover my face. He gets closer when I can't see." I tried to soothe her. "I need to help you breathe, please." But she kept shaking her head, tears streaming down. "I don't want to see him again," she whispered. Her heart rate shot from high to chaotic, not just irregular, dangerously unstable. I pressed the call button. "I need a doctor in Trauma 3 now." While I tried to stabilize her, she looked past me again, right at the reflection in the cabinet, her face twisted in pure terror. "He's almost here." And then, she screamed, a sound so sharp and raw, it sliced through every other noise in the ER. Her body jerked violently, monitors blaring, alarms lighting up one after another in a cascade of chaos. I grabbed her shoulders. "Mara, stay with me." But her eyes weren't on me anymore. They were locked onto the reflection behind me, and whatever she thought she saw there broke her. Her body collapsed back onto the stretcher, breathing shallow, eyes wide and unfocused, heart rhythm spiraling out of control. Dr. Hayes burst into the room just as I shouted the numbers to him. He jumped into action. I moved with him reflexively, our years of practice taking over. But even as my hands worked the equipment, I couldn't shake the feeling that the temperature in the room had changed. The air felt heavier, thicker, like stepping into a place where you weren't supposed to be. And then the lights flickered again. Just once. Just long enough to confirm what I already felt deep in my bones. Something was very, very wrong. And the night wasn't anywhere near done with us. Dr. Hayes stood beside me, his hands moving fast over the equipment as Mara's vitals spiraled into a mess of conflicting numbers. The monitor sounded like it couldn't decide which alarm was most urgent, so it just played all of them at once, like a warning chorus that rattled the nerves of everyone within earshot. "Her rhythm is unstable," he said. "Prep medication." I was already on it. My hands didn't hesitate, even though my mind was racing. I kept glancing at the reflective cabinet across the room, not because I expected to see anything, but because Mara's terror had left a mark on me. When a patient looks past you like they're staring into the jaws of something only they can see, it plants a seed in your brain whether you like it or not. I moved closer to her with the medication, but her whole body tensed the moment I approached. "No," she whispered, barely audible. "He's behind you again." My breath hitched for half a second. I forced myself not to look. Instead, I kept my attention on her. "There's no one behind me," I said calmly. "You're safe, I promise." She shook her head weakly. "You don't understand. He changes. He looks different every time, but the eyes stay the same. They don't blink." Her pulse spiked again, a jagged jump on the monitor. Dr. Hayes leaned over her, his voice firm but gentle. "Mara, listen. We need you to stay calm so we can help you. Your heart is working too hard." Her breathing hitched, almost like she was fighting against invisible pressure. For a second, her gaze softened, not because she was calmer, but because she was giving up. "He's closer now," she said. "He's standing right next to you." I refused to turn around. If I gave power to her fear, it would only make things worse. But even without looking, I felt it again, that strange heaviness in the room. Like the temperature had shifted by a fraction of a degree, a barely perceptible cold creeping across the back of my neck. No explanation, no draft, no open door, just wrong. Suddenly, a crash echoed through the ER hallway, a loud one, metal hitting the floor, shouting. Carla yelled from the nurse's station. "We need everyone, now." I looked at Dr. Hayes. He looked at me. Neither of us wanted to leave Mara, but duty wasn't optional. "Go," he said. "I'll stabilize her. They need you." I hesitated only a heartbeat before rushing out. The scene in the hallway was chaos. A stretcher had been knocked over, supplies scattered across the tile floor like someone had swiped their arm over an entire shelf. Security was trying to restrain someone thrashing, shouting words that didn't make sense. It was the man who had brought Mara in. He wasn't yelling warnings now, he was screaming. "Get away from the windows," he shouted, kicking out wildly. "Get away! He's here! He found her! He found her!" 2 security guards struggled to keep him down. A third tried soothing him, but he wouldn't listen. I approached carefully. "Sir, look at me. What happened?" He snapped his head toward me so sharply I thought he'd hurt himself. His eyes were wide, pupils blown with fear. "I saw him," he said, voice trembling. "In the glass by the entrance. Behind me. Behind you. Behind everybody." His voice cracked. "He's not human. I don't know what he is, but he wants her. He doesn't care who's in the way." Before I could respond, he jerked violently, almost tearing free from security. He followed us from the parking lot. She wasn't imagining it. I saw him this time. He wasn't lying. Or at least, he didn't believe he was. I'd seen people hallucinate before. I'd seen psychosis, panic attacks, terror responses. This wasn't that. This wasn't confusion. This was conviction. Fear rooted so deep it shook him physically. Suddenly, one of the overhead lights flickered, then steadied. The entire hallway went silent for a moment. Not because the sound stopped, but because everyone felt something shift. Even the paramedics paused. I stepped back, my heart thumping in my chest, and out of the corner of my eye, I noticed something strange. A reflective sheen on the floor near the overturned stretcher. A spill. Clear. Shiny. Wide enough to catch the lights. And for a moment, just a fraction of a moment, something moved in the reflection. Not me. Not the guards. Not him. Something behind all of us. I blinked hard, and it disappeared instantly. Nothing there. I swallowed. My mind tried writing it off as stress, movement, chaos, anything but what it looked like. But I couldn't shake the feeling that the air itself had gone still for that split second. I forced myself back to the immediate crisis. "We need to restrain him for his safety," I told security. "But keep an eye on him. He's terrified, not violent." They nodded. I turned to head back to Trauma 3, and that's when I heard screaming again. Not from the hallway, not from the waiting room, from Mara's room. I sprinted. When I burst through the door, I saw her sitting upright, as if yanked into a sitting position by invisible hands. Her eyes were wide open, staring at the reflective cabinet, tears streaming down her face. "Doctor," Hayes was trying to hold her steady. "She's fighting the oxygen. Help me." I rushed to the opposite side of the bed, grabbing her shoulders gently but firmly. "Mara, look at me. Don't look at the cabinet." But she wouldn't, or couldn't. Her voice was a hoarse whisper. "He's right there." Her pulse surged on the monitor, numbers jumping so fast the machine struggled to keep up. Her entire body trembled violently. She tried pulling away, but her strength kept fading in waves. "Doctor," Hayes shouted, "we need to sedate her." "I'm ready," I said, grabbing the medication. But she suddenly stopped moving. Completely. Mid-breath. Her eyes didn't close. They just shifted, slowly, from the cabinet to me. And she said something I'll never forget. "You're next." A cold shock shot through my body so intense it felt like my veins turned to ice. I froze, syringe in hand. "What?" I whispered. But her head slumped back before she could answer. Her body went limp. The monitors screamed in alarm. Her rhythm crashed. Everything inside me snapped into pure medical mode, adrenaline sharpening every thought, every reflex. "Starting intervention," I shouted. Dr. Hayes and I worked on her with precision, urgency, and sheer determination. I didn't think about her words. I didn't think about reflections. I didn't think about anything except bringing her back. Minutes felt like hours. The world narrowed to the numbers on the screen and the actions in front of me. Finally, her rhythm stabilized enough to bring her back from the edge. She wasn't awake, but she was breathing with assistance. Her vitals were holding. Dr. Hayes exhaled, wiping sweat from his forehead. That was close. I nodded, heart still hammering. Too close. For a moment, the room was quiet, calm, almost peaceful. Then the overhead lights flickered again, twice, and the reflective cabinet door, closed just minutes before, was slightly ajar, just an inch. Just enough to catch a distorted reflection of the room. I stepped toward it slowly. The air felt heavy again, thick, like the room was holding its breath. I reached out and closed the cabinet door with one firm push. The metal clicked shut. I stepped back. Dr. Hayes peeked up from the chart he was writing. "Everything okay?" I forced a nod. "Yeah, just closing it." But deep down, I didn't believe that. Not for a second. The rest of the night was calmer, if you could call it that. The chaos never left completely. The strange cold spells, the flickering lights, the feeling of being watched, all of it lingered like residue. Patients kept coming in with unrelated issues, but each time someone stood near a reflective surface, I found myself glancing twice. When my shift finally ended at 7 a.m., the sky outside the ER was turning pale blue. I walked out into the parking lot exhausted, drained, and ready to collapse. But when I reached my car, I saw something that made me stop. My driver's side window reflected the morning light in a way that should have shown only my reflection. But the silhouette staring back at me wasn't shaped like me. I blinked hard, and in that heartbeat of distraction, the shape shifted, like it melted into the sunlight and vanished. A trick of exhaustion? A leftover imprint of the night? A brain pushed too far? Maybe, but as I got into my car, one thought lodged itself deep in my mind and refused to leave. Mara said he follows through reflections. And that night, the craziest shift of my life, was the first time I ever wondered, what if she wasn't hallucinating at all? I still don't know exactly what happened that night. I don't know why two patients said the same thing. I don't know why the lights kept flickering, or why the air felt like something else was breathing with us in that room. I don't know if the shape I saw in the window was real, or just exhaustion playing tricks on me. But I do know one thing. Some nights in the ER can't be explained by medicine. Some nights stay with you forever. And that one changed the way I walk past every reflective surface in this hospital, just in case. Thank you for listening until the end. It means more than you know to have someone hear what really happens behind the doors of the ER, especially on nights like this. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe, leave a like, and share it with someone who loves true ER stories. It helps the channel more than you can imagine, and lets me keep telling you what really happens in the most unpredictable place in the world. See you in the next one. And stay safe out there, and